Sharon had always been a hard-working woman. At just 25, she worked as a tailor in the bustling town of Onitsha, waking up early every morning to meet her customers' demands. Despite her struggles, she remained kind-hearted and selfless, especially when it came to her boyfriend, Eric. Eric was a young man with big dreams but little money. He had tried several business ideas, from selling electronics to running a small barber shop, but none had succeeded. Yet, Sharon believed in him. She paid his bills, gave him money for food, and even took loans to fund his businesses. "Baby, I promise this time my business will work," Eric said one evening as they sat outside her small one-room apartment. "I believe you, Eric. I just want us to have a better life," Sharon replied, her eyes filled with love and hope. She worked late into the night, sewing clothes for customers so she could support him. Even when her friends warned her, she ignored them. "Sharon, you are doing too much for that boy. What if he leaves you one day?" Her best friend, Gift, asked. "Eric is not like that. He loves me, and I love him too," Sharon said firmly. Months passed, and Eric's business still wasn't doing well. He started asking for more money. "Sharon, I need just 50,000 naira to restock my shop. Customers are complaining that I don't have enough goods," Eric said one night. Sharon sighed. She had saved that money to rent a better shop for herself, but seeing Eric's desperation, she handed him the cash. "God will bless you for me, my love," he said, hugging her tight. The next day, Sharon sat inside her small shop, her sewing machine humming as she finished the customer's dress. It was late evening, and Gift had come to visit. She sat on a plastic chair, watching Sharon work with a deep frown on her face. "Sharon, how long will you continue like this?" Gift asked. Sharon sighed. She knew where this conversation was going. "Gift, I love Eric. I believe in him. One day, things will be better." Gift hissed loudly. "Better qua? Is it love you will eat? Let me tell you something, my dear. The loyalty of a poor man cannot be trusted. When a man has nothing, he will cling to any woman who helps him. But the moment he makes it, he will start looking for his class of woman." Sharon frowned. "Eric is not like that. He appreciates everything I do for him." Gift clapped her hands and laughed. "Nay, you think you are special? Look, that's why I can never date a broke man. I'm not Bob the Builder. A man should build himself before looking for a serious relationship. You're the woman in this relationship, but look at you. You're the one paying bills, funding business, even buying his clothes. Does that sound right?" Sharon remained silent, her heart heavy. She loved Eric, but Gift's words echoed in her mind. "Let him take the lead, Sharon," Gift continued. "If he truly loves you, he will find a way to take care of you, instead of you carrying his entire life on your head." Sharon forced a smile. "Eric just needs time." "Okay, but when he finally makes it and tells you that you are not in his league, don't say I didn't warn you." As Gift left, Sharon sat alone, her mind troubled. What if Gift was right? What if Eric was just using her? A week after Gift's warning, Eric visited Sharon in her shop, looking worried. She knew that look. It always meant one thing. He needed money. "Baby, I really hate to ask, but I need your help again." Sharon paused her sewing and looked at him. "What is it?" "This time, Eric, my business is really struggling. I need to add more stock, but I don't have enough money. Just 100,000 naira will make a difference. I swear, this is the last time I will ask." Sharon sighed deeply. Her savings were almost gone. She had been planning to buy a new sewing machine to expand her business. But here was Eric again, needing help. She looked into his eyes. "Eric, tell me the truth. When you finally make it, will you ever forget me?" Eric's eyes widened and he grabbed her hands. "Forget you? God forbid. Sharon, you are my queen, my everything. If not for you, I don't know where I would be. I will never forget you. In fact, when I make it, I will repay you for everything. I will make you the happiest woman alive." His words melted her heart. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that all her sacrifices would be worth it in the end. "All right," she said, forcing a smile. "I will give you the money." Eric hugged her tightly. "God bless you, my love. I promise. Things will change soon." As he walked away, Sharon took a deep breath. She prayed she wasn't making a mistake. The days turned into weeks, and Sharon noticed something strange. Eric was changing. He still came to her for money, but now he seemed distracted, always checking his phone and making secret calls. One evening, as they sat outside her shop, she decided to ask, "Eric, is everything okay? You've been acting different lately." Eric chuckled nervously. "Baby, you worry too much. I've just been busy trying to make things work. You know I want to succeed for us." Sharon nodded, but something didn't sit right in her spirit. The next day, Gift stormed into her shop, breathing fire. "Sharon, you won't believe what I just saw." "What is it?" Sharon asked, concerned. "I saw your Eric at Mama Cass restaurant, eating like a king, and guess what? He was with another girl. They were laughing, ordering drinks, and acting like lovers." Sharon's heart stopped. "That's not possible," she whispered, shaking her head. "Possible," Gift scoffed. "Nini, open your eyes. You are here suffering and sowing your life away while he is out there enjoying your hard-earned money with another woman." Tears welled up in Sharon's eyes, but she refused to believe it. That night, she confronted Eric. "Eric, where were you this afternoon?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Eric blinked in surprise. "I was at my shop, working." Sharon's stomach twisted. He was lying. "Are you sure? Because someone told me they saw you at Mama Cass with another girl." Eric's face darkened. "Sharon, so you don't trust me after everything we've been through? You're listening to gossip instead of believing in me?" Sharon felt guilty. What if she was wrong? "I'm sorry," she mumbled. Eric sighed and pulled her into a hug. "I love you, Sharon. You're my queen. Stop letting people fill your head with nonsense." Sharon wanted to believe him, but deep down, doubt had already started creeping in. One morning, Sharon woke up to a loud knock on her door. It was Eric, grinning from ear to ear, like a child who had just won a jackpot. "Baby, it finally happened," he shouted, pulling her into a tight hug. "What happened?" she asked, confused. "My business. I got the deal. A big client just signed a contract with me, and they paid me a huge advance. Sharon, we are rich." Sharon's heart swelled with joy. After all the sacrifices, after all the tears, it was finally happening. "Oh my God, Eric! I told you it would work out. I'm so proud of you," she cried, hugging him. Eric pulled back and looked at her. "I couldn't have done this without you, my love. You stood by me when no one else did, and I will never forget that. I promise to take care of you now. No more suffering." Sharon wiped her tears and smiled. She had always believed in him, and now it was paying off. For the first few weeks, Eric kept his promise. He gave Sharon money to expand her shop, bought her new clothes, and even took her out to nice restaurants. It felt like a fairy tale. But soon, things started to change. Eric started hanging out with new friends, rich, flashy men who dressed in designer clothes and drove expensive cars. He started talking differently, walking differently, acting like he was above everyone. One evening, Sharon called him. It rang and rang, but he didn't pick up. She tried again. Nothing. Finally, after 3 hours, he texted, "I'm busy. Talk later." Sharon frowned. Busy? Since when did Eric become too busy for her? A week passed and Eric barely called. When he finally visited, he looked different, wearing expensive shoes, a gold chain, and sunglasses. Eric, you don't even call me anymore, Sharon said, feeling hurt. Eric sighed. Baby, I've just been busy. Business meetings, deals. You know how it is. But you always have time for your new friends, she said quietly. Eric chuckled and patted her shoulder. Come on, Sharon. You wouldn't understand. The business world is different. I need to move with the right people now. She watched him as he answered a call, laughing loudly with someone on the other end. The man she had struggled for was slipping away, and there was nothing she could do about it. Days turned into weeks, and Eric became a complete stranger. He stopped visiting Sharon's shop, barely answered her calls, and when he did, his responses were cold and rushed. One evening, Sharon decided to visit him at his new apartment in GRA. The moment she stepped into the luxurious compound, she felt out of place. Expensive cars were parked outside, and loud music boomed from the house. She knocked, but no one answered. She pushed the door open and froze. Eric was sitting on a couch, surrounded by two well-dressed men and a woman in a tight red dress, laughing as they drank champagne. Eric! Sharon called, her voice shaking. Eric looked up and his smile disappeared. What are you doing here? He asked, standing up. Sharon's heart dropped. That tone, he sounded embarrassed. I called, but you didn't answer, she said. I just wanted to see you. Eric sighed and walked over to her. Sharon, you can't just show up like this. I have guests. Guests? She glanced at the woman, who was now eyeing her with amusement. The woman smirked. Babe, who is this? Sharon's chest tightened. Babe? Eric quickly forced a laugh. Oh, she's just an old friend. The words hit Sharon like a slap. Just an old friend after everything she had done for him. Tears welled in her eyes. Eric, what are you saying? Eric grabbed her hand and pulled her outside. Sharon, listen. My life has changed now. You need to understand that I can't be the same person I was when I was struggling. Sharon's voice broke. So, because you have money now, I am beneath you. Look, I appreciate everything you did for me, but I have moved up. You need to stop holding on to the past. Sharon staggered back. The man she had sacrificed for, the man she had believed in, was throwing her away like trash. She turned and walked away, her heart breaking with every step. Eric didn't call after her, didn't even try to stop her. Sharon walked home in a daze. Eric's cold behavior playing over and over in her mind. The same man who once swore she was his queen now treated her like a nobody. She didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the other woman laughing beside him. Who was she? Was she just a business partner, or had Eric moved on? The next morning, she went to Gift's house. The moment Gift opened the door and saw Sharon's red, swollen eyes, she hissed loudly. I knew it! Did I not warn you? Did I not tell you that the loyalty of a poor man cannot be trusted? Sharon sat down, holding her head. Gift, I don't know what to do. What do you mean you don't know what to do? Eric has made money, and now he thinks you are not in his league. He has upgraded, and you are no longer part of the package. Sharon's chest tightened. But he promised me. He said he would never forget me. Gift scoffed. Men and promises. My dear, wake up. You were his stepping stone, not his final destination. Sharon felt tears building up again. So what do I do? First, stop crying over a man who is probably making love to another woman right now. And second, take back what you gave him. What do you mean? Did you or did you not fund his business? Gift asked. Sharon nodded slowly. Then go and collect your money. If he is now rich, he can pay you back. Sharon had never thought of that. She had given Eric everything out of love, never expecting anything in return. But now she wasn't so sure. Maybe Gift was right. Maybe it was time for Eric to pay his debt. Sharon gathered the little courage she had left and decided to confront Eric. Enough was enough. If he no longer wanted her, that was fine. But he was going to return every single naira she had spent on him. The next afternoon, she marched straight to his office, ignoring the rude secretary. This time she wouldn't be turned away. Found him sitting behind his large desk, dressed in an expensive designer suit, a gold watch flashing on his wrist. This was no longer the Eric she knew. He leaned back in his chair, raising an eyebrow. "Sharon, what are you doing here?" "I came for my money, Eric," he scoffed. "Your money?" "Yes. Every single naira I spent on you. I paid your rent, I funded your business, I bought your clothes, and I fed you when you had nothing. I want it all back." Eric chuckled. "Ah, so now you see it as a loan. When you were giving me, did I force you? Did I put a gun to your head? You did all those things because you wanted to. So why are you disturbing me now?" Sharon's eyes burned with anger. "You promised me, Eric. You swore you wouldn't forget me." Eric stood up, walking around his desk until he was standing right in front of her. His expression changed, cold, arrogant, and full of mockery. "Sharon, let's be honest," he said, smirking. "When I was broke, I was blind. I thought you were the best I could do. But now," he laughed cruelly, "now my eyes are open." "What do you mean?" Eric looked her up and down, his gaze filled with disgust. "Look at you. You're nothing compared to Audrey." "Audrey," Sharon whispered. "Yes, Audrey. My babe. She's beautiful, sophisticated, and comes from a wealthy family. Not like you, a local girl from the slums." Sharon gasped. "Eric, how can you say this to me after everything I've done for you?" Eric leaned closer. "Because it's the truth. You were useful when I had nothing. But now I need a woman that fits my new status. You can never be that woman." Sharon felt like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. This wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "Eric, you may think you've won, but mark my words, you will regret this." Eric smirked. "We'll see about that." With her head held high, Sharon walked out of his office. Sharon sat on her bed, staring at the ceiling as hot tears streamed down her face. She had cried so much that her eyes were swollen and her head ached. But the pain in her heart was worse. How could Eric do this to me? She kept asking herself. After everything, she had given him everything. Her love, her money, her time. She had believed in him when no one else did. A soft knock sounded on her door. Before she could even answer, Gift walked in. The moment she saw Sharon's red, puffy eyes, she hissed loudly, "Sharon, what is this nonsense?" She asked, "Are you still crying over that useless boy?" Sharon sniffed, her voice shaky. "Gift, was it wrong to love him? Is it a bad thing to be kind, to help someone you care about?" Gift sat down beside her and let out a long sigh. "My dear, yes. Some men don't like when you treat them too kindly. They like crazy women. They don't want peace. They want stress." Sharon blinked. "But that doesn't make sense. Shouldn't a man appreciate a good woman?" Gift scoffed. "You think men are like us? My sister, men are selfish. They think of themselves first. They will use you, drain you, and once they've had enough, they will leave you without looking back." Sharon shook her head. "So what are you saying? That I should stop being a good person?" Gift held her hands. "No, Sharon, be a good person, but be good to yourself first. Let this be a lesson to you. We don't build men. A man is supposed to build his woman, not the other way around." Sharon wiped half her tears. "So you're saying I should never date a broke man again?" Gift nodded firmly. Never. A man doesn't have to be rich, but at least let him have something he's doing that brings in money. Not someone who will be waiting for you to feed him. Sharon took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Gift was right. She had learned her lesson the hard way. She had spent years building Eric, and now that he had become a man of status, he had discarded her like she was nothing. Never again would she lower herself for a man who had nothing to offer. Gift patted her shoulder. Now, dry your tears. Eric may have won this round, but life is not over. You will rise again, and when you do, you'll be so successful that he will regret ever treating you like this. Sharon wiped her face and nodded. Sharon threw herself into her work, focusing on expanding her small tailoring shop. With the money she once spent on Eric's dreams, she invested in herself instead. She bought new sewing machines, hired an extra hand to assist her, and even started taking online business management courses. If Eric could build an empire, so could she. At first it was tough. There were days she felt like giving up. But every time she remembered how Eric humiliated her, how he called her a local girl from the slums, her determination grew stronger. She would prove to herself that she was more than what he saw her as. The last she heard of him, he was flaunting his new rich daddy's girl around town, living the luxurious life he once dreamed of. But Sharon no longer cared. 3 years passed, and Sharon was no longer the same woman. She was now the proud owner of one of the biggest fashion houses in Anambra State. Sharon Stitches Empire was a name known far and wide. She had over 100 people training under her and the team handling her business operations. She no longer worked from a small shop. She had a massive fashion academy, dressing top politicians, celebrities, and society women. Her designs were showcased at fashion shows, and big brands sought partnerships with her. Sharon had become the woman of her dreams. She no longer lived in a one-room apartment. She had her own fully furnished duplex, a brand new SUV, and the freedom to travel wherever she pleased. Most importantly, she had peace of mind. One evening, as she sat in her office overlooking her busy fashion academy, she smiled to herself. If only Eric could see her now. But she wasn't interested in revenge anymore. She had won in the best way possible, by building herself into a woman he could never have again. And for that, she was grateful. After years of building her empire, Sharon finally opened her heart to love again. She was now dating Desmond Okafor, a wealthy and successful businessman, the CEO of Okafor Holdings. Unlike Eric, Desmond was a man who had built himself from the ground up. He was hardworking, responsible, and most importantly, he valued and respected her. Their relationship was nothing like what she had experienced with Eric. Desmond never asked for her money. Instead, he spoiled her, took her on vacations, and treated her like a queen. For the first time in her life, she felt what it truly meant to be loved by a man who had his own. One sunny afternoon, she decided to surprise him at his office. She had just returned from a fashion event in Lagos and bought him a custom-tailored suit as a gift. When she arrived at Okafor Holdings, she stepped out of a car in style, her driver and assistant following behind her. The moment she approached the entrance, a security guard quickly rushed to assist her. "Good afternoon, Ma," the guard said, reaching to carry her designer handbag. Sharon turned to thank him, but the moment she saw his face, her heart nearly stopped. Eric. Her Eric. But this wasn't the proud, arrogant man who had once humiliated her. This Eric looked tired. His skin was darker from long hours under the sun. His uniform was faded, his shoes dusty, and his once well-groomed hair looked unkempt. Their eyes met, and for a second, time froze. Eric's face twisted in shock, his mouth opening and closing like he wanted to say something but couldn't. Sharon's assistant, unaware of the tension, nudged her. "Ma, should he take the bag?" Sharon snapped out of her daze. She looked at Eric for a moment longer, then turned to her assistant and said, "No need, I can carry my own bag." Without another word, she walked past him like he was nothing. Eric stood there, watching her enter the building of the man she now belonged to. The woman he had once mocked had become untouchable. Inside Desmond's office, Sharon sat comfortably as Desmond unwrapped the custom-tailored suit she brought for him. "Wow," he said, smiling. "You always have great taste." She chuckled. "Of course I do. I own one of the best fashion houses in the country." He leaned forward and kissed her forehead. "And that's why I'm the luckiest man in the world to have you." Sharon smiled, but a part of her was still thinking about what just happened downstairs. After a moment of silence, Desmond noticed her expression. "Baby, is something wrong?" She hesitated, then sighed. "I saw someone today, someone from my past." "Who?" Sharon met his eyes. "Eric." His eyes darkened. He had heard everything about Eric, how she supported him, how he betrayed her, and how he humiliated her when he made it big. "And where did you see him?" he asked. Sharon took a deep breath. "At the entrance. He's one of your security guards." Desmond's lips pressed into a tight line. He exhaled sharply and leaned back in his chair. "So after everything, this is what he has become." She nodded. Life humbled him. There was silence for a moment before Desmond spoke again. "Do you want me to fire him?" Sharon smiled and shook her head. "No, sweetheart. Life has already dealt with him. He's exactly where he deserves to be. You're a strong woman, Sharon. That's one of the many reasons I love you." She smiled softly and squeezed his hand. The next morning, she arrived at Sharon Stitch's empire, ready for a busy day. As she stepped out of her car, she noticed a familiar figure standing outside the gate. It was Eric. Her stomach turned. She had a feeling this moment would come. The security guards at her company were already moving toward him, but she raised a hand, signaling them to stop. "Good morning, Ma," one of them said. "This man said he wants to see you." She crossed her arms. "And why does he want to see me?" Eric, who had been avoiding her eyes, finally looked up. His face was thin, his eyes dull, his body language that of a broken man. "Sharon, please, can we talk?" She let out a small laugh, shaking her head. "Talk? After 3 years? What could we possibly have to talk about, Eric?" He swallowed hard. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Sharon repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Sorry for what exactly?" "For everything. For how I treated you. For how I used you. I was a fool, Sharon. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it." She stared at him, emotionless. "And what do you expect me to do with this apology? Should I clap for you? Give you a hug? Say thank you for breaking my heart?" Eric lowered his head. "I don't expect anything. I just needed you to know that I regret everything. If I could go back in time, I would have treated you differently." Sharon exhaled. "Eric, life already taught you the lesson you deserve. I don't need to add to it." She turned to her security guards. "Make sure he leaves peacefully." As she walked away, Eric called out one last time. "Sharon, please, if there's any way you can help me." She stopped in her tracks. "Help you?" she said softly. "Eric, I was your help, and you threw me away." With that, she entered her company, the door closing behind her. As Eric walked away from Sharon Stitch's empire, his legs felt weak. His mind drifted back to the past, the years when money had flowed into his hands like a river. He had been rich, powerful, and arrogant, untouchable. And now, a security guard begging for help. He sighed deeply and sat on a bench under a tree, his head in his hands. His downfall hadn't started immediately. At first, when he made it big, he had enjoyed the luxury of wealth. He bought the latest cars, traveled to Dubai, partied in expensive clubs, and surrounded himself with fake friends who only loved him because of his money. He thought he had arrived. But money finishes when there is no wisdom. The rich daddy's girl he had left Sharon for was the beginning of his destruction. She had convinced him to invest millions in a business deal that turned out to be a scam. By the time he realized it, he had lost almost everything. His so-called rich friends disappeared. And when he asked the girl for help, she laughed in his face and told him, "I don't date broke men." The same words he once said to Sharon. Desperate, he made one last stupid decision. He got involved in fraud. He thought he could make quick money and rise again. But before he could escape, the police caught him. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Those 2 years were hell. He slept on the cold floor, ate food worse than what he used to give his dog, and fought to survive. By the time he came out, he had nothing left. No home, no business, no one to call. The only job he could get was as a security guard, standing outside offices where real bosses walked in and out every day. And today, the biggest slap of all had landed. Sharon, the woman he had insulted, betrayed, and abandoned, was now a successful businesswoman. And he? A nobody. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered to himself, "If only I had been wiser. If only I had treated her better. If only I had known that money is not everything." But life had no rewind button.